Do celebrities get chronic illnesses? Yeah, they do. Hello, lovely people. Do you know what's fun? Gossip. Do you know what's even more fun? Not talking about people you've never met in a dehumanizing way. So a few years ago, I made a video on the controversy surrounding Jameela Jamil's EDS diagnosis and how she was accused of having Munchausen syndrome, a mental disorder in which a person repeatedly and deliberately acts as if they have a physical or mental illness when they are not actually sick. Which people believed because surely she couldn't have that many problems. Do you remember that? Oof. Yeah, well, whatever you think about Jameela Jamil as one specific person, the point being made was that you cannot possibly know what someone's experience of their condition is, and also that it's never okay to question a person's diagnosis. Thankfully, since then, we've all learned our lesson, and now we live in a world where people think twice before speculating on why people's bodies change, and where no one acts invasively when a celebrity chooses to talk or not talk about their experiences with chronic illness or disability. No. Oh, we don't? Well, that's a shame. I want some of whatever she's having. But Jessica, how could we not speculate about the innermost details of celebrities' personal lives? Isn't that what celebrities are for? You mean, if an actress or singer or princess loses or gains weight or stops appearing in public for an extended period of time, isn't it natural for people to talk about it? Well, if they're going to post photoshopped pictures of themselves, isn't it okay to ask if they're just doing it for attention? They're celebrities, we own them. Wow, okay. That one doesn't even try to sound polite. I'm terrified. Last week, Selena Gomez posted selfies on Instagram showing herself in a bra, but quickly deleted them. Reports say the photos were only up for a few minutes, and she hasn't said why she took them down, but we can assume that posting them was intentional. It wasn't an accidental kind of like, oh no, the wrong thing from my camera roll went up, which, as someone who doesn't post my child's face on the internet, I am constantly terrified of doing. Potentially she just liked the pictures in the moment, but then decided they were a bit too racy for the internet. They're pretty hot. And she isn't wearing a lot of clothing in them, and she has some really good hair. Yet, once the pictures were re-uploaded to Twitter, people were quick to body shame her and use some pretty awful language, particularly around her weight. Others brought up a clip from a 2016 AMA speech she gave saying,
I don't want to see your bodies on Instagram. I want to see what's in here.
And called her a hypocrite. I mean, well, she did have a very young audience at the time. She was just trying to be a good guide to 7-year-olds. And a person's stance on Instagram's acceptability is allowed to change in 8 years. Selena has the autoimmune disease lupus and has been open for years about her struggles with that illness, and her medication for it causes her weight to fluctuate. She's had a kidney transplant, she's had chemotherapy, and she's dealt with it all in the public eye whilst going through some very high-profile careers, whilst internet trolls snark on her appearance. Surely we should know by now not to comment on people's bodies, especially in these situations where you know someone's dealing with a medical issue. Other people chimed in that clearly we hadn't learned anything from what happened to Chadwick Boseman, with many of the same accounts making fun of his weight loss and claiming he was probably on drugs before it was revealed he had died from cancer, then posting "rest in power" and claiming, oh, they've been supporters all along. Yeah, for many of us living with chronic illnesses, diseases, disabilities, mental health struggles, or the freaking beast that is cancer, it doesn't necessarily define us as a person, but it is a part of who we are. So when we see a celebrity talking about their experiences with the same thing, it can be inspiring, crushing, or heartwarming, but it's going to hit close to home. So let's talk about the awareness that comes when celebrities discuss their diagnoses of chronic illness, the way in which that can be a positive or a negative, and how we react to it as consumers of media. Buckle up, thank you for being here, for having already subscribed, for having clicked the links in the description, for already following me on Instagram, all of that. And for those in the back, no, it is not okay to body shame people who don't have a chronic illness either. And also how maybe we should just never accuse people you don't know of faking an illness. Awareness. In the previous decades and nowadays, many celebrities have opened up about their experiences with chronic illness, usually with the intention of helping to create awareness, being able to create healthier working conditions for themselves, and also as a response to a different degree of backlash from fans when needing to take time off. Because just telling people that you won't be available between Christmas and Easter, not such a great plan. In January, Kensington Palace announced that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, would be undergoing abdominal surgery and stepping back from public duties whilst recovering. For weeks, the internet has collectively gone wild trying to work out what on earth is going on with the missing princess. How is she missing when she told you she wouldn't be there? She's dead. She's run away to divorce him. She's in an induced coma. She's secretly a lizard person. There's always that one weirdo. My theory was that she was actually covering up for one of her children who was ill, but no. Granted, the palace did not handle the PR well. They were only releasing vague statements to the press. They released one terrible photo of Kate with her children. Like, could that be more photoshopped? Sorry, I know photoshopped is, like, most images are photoshopped. You can do photoshopped to change a colour. It doesn't actually mean that the image isn't a real representation of the thing that you shot. Not well edited, is what I mean to say. And then they allowed the princess to take the blame. And by not allowing British press to run paparazzi photos of her, it meant that they leaked online and ran in other countries, making the whole thing seem like a giant cover-up and conspiracy. Yes, the royal family do still have a surprising amount of control over the press. It's best not to think about it, or you'll not feel great inside. At least sometimes they use it to protect their small children from being psychologically damaged. Indeed. Which turned out to be the case. Just as her children broke up for the Easter holiday and wouldn't be met with questions on the playground, but would instead be isolated away from televisions and other forms of media in their lovely, fancy, big castle, Kate told them privately and then the world what we'd probably all known deep down was true: her condition was worse than we've been led to believe. In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful, however, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment. FYI, preventative chemotherapy is basically a treatment meant to mop up any remaining cancer cells after the primary treatment of surgery. It's intended to reduce the risk of the cancer coming back and spreading. It takes usually 3 to 6 months. The strangest thing was seeing people say that she's been made to sit in front of daffodils because it's the next best thing to having her hold up a newspaper with a date on it, but without any awareness that daffodils are actually a symbol of cancer hope. Oh yes, and our king has cancer too, so you know. The royals in Britain are doing great. Of all the fun that was had making up conspiracy theories about where Kate was, I mean, it will just probably be channeled into going after someone else, because the internet never learns. Is the video a deepfake? Oh, shh, no, shh. The thing is though, being open and honest when you're going through something personal like bad health doesn't necessarily mean you'll be better received, or less memed. For instance, Bella Hadid has talked about her experiences with Lyme disease, both in her Instagram posts and through different interviews in the press, posting positive pictures of treatment and recovery and discussing the suffering and the toll the disease has had on her ability to function day to day. She's talked about its effects on her physical and mental health and her work. The American model, who is one of 2023's 100 most influential people in the world, according to Time magazine, was diagnosed in 2013 alongside her brother and her mother Yolanda Hadid. Her mother even wrote a book called Believe Me, My Battle with the Invisible Disability of Lyme Disease, where she first described their shared diagnoses after having been accused of faking the disease for attention. Now, granted, Yolanda Hadid is the queen of the almond moms, but does that mean she's lying about having an illness? Well, it's Yolanda Hadid. Some people did not believe Yolanda Hadid precisely because she was open about her diagnosis. In a 2016 article, her stepdaughter Sarah Foster declared, "No one wants everyone to know how sick they are and everyone to see how much they're struggling. When that seems to be the focus, that's just confusing to someone who's trying to be supportive." Interesting, so they thought she could not be sick because she said she was sick? Oh, and then she followed it with, "Only she knows her journey, but I will say, if you're capable of continuing to be on a reality show, you're not dying." Oh, I'm sorry, because real ill people just quit their jobs and curl up and die in a corner? Sounds about right. Side note, was anyone else deeply disappointed to discover that Amy, Jordana Brewster's lesbian love interest from Devs, is actually a 1% Nepo baby? Devastating. However, Bella has continued in her mother's footsteps of sharing the process of recovery and treatment and making it as visible as possible, saying she aims to destigmatize and create awareness of the condition and chronic illnesses in general. Yay, she has a huge platform. That's great. Also, not the only awareness raising Bella Hadid does. Of the kids who kind of grow up in reality shows, she's definitely top tier, right? We tend to just not talk all that much about chronic illness as a society, and many people may not be familiar with the symptoms of something like Lyme disease unless they have direct experience of it. So it's good to have the info out there. Hey, struggling with these symptoms? Have you considered it might be this? People with chronic illness can also experience social rejection, workplace issues, and poor healthcare, and often have to deal with stress from the expected stigma associated with their conditions. You know, because of the whole people thinking it's okay to accuse others of faking it. there is no way that could have had negative effects. Other celebrities have spoken up about how we dismiss chronic pain as unimportant, such as Lady Gaga addressing her fibromyalgia, or Bindi Irwin, Steve Irwin's daughter, who was told by a doctor pain was just something you have to deal with as a woman while suffering from endometriosis. Oh, even the apple is your basis for your medical practice? Oh, in the bin with you, world's worst gynecologist. Though these experiences are in no way unique to people like Lady Gaga or Bindi Irwin, it is useful for people with chronic illnesses to see these high-profile figures discussing these issues, because sadly, medical professionals tend to disregard the pain of women and people they see as women, and seeing this happen to these models, singers and personalities may help some become more aware when their own pain is being dismissed, and that it's not okay, and that actually they are not the problem, which not only happens, but also can make medical issues worse. According to one study about women's perceptions of medical care, when doctors did not take the women's pain seriously, the doctor's neglectful attitude became part of the problem. Feeling mistrusted or psychologized by healthcare professionals can lead to distress. Pain, accompanied by distress, is typically attributed to physiological factors. If the patient articulates the distress, it can lead to an even greater degree of psychologization by healthcare professionals. At the same time, the distress was significantly reduced and treatment proceeded much more easily when these women encountered a medical professional who believed them. Who would have thought? Wow! So it wasn't just Yolanda Hadid's stepdaughter, and one of my great disappointments, Sarah Foster. We have a study to prove the point. Actually telling people you are in pain may make them less likely to believe you are in pain, but having them believe you has better outcomes for you. Well, thank goodness we have an academic study to tell us that it's difficult to access medical care, as if we didn't already know. Raise your hand if you too have to practice explaining your level of pain to the doctor so they realise it's really bad and give you the medication or referral you need, but not so bad that you seem hysterical. Top tip for another person who is clearly not in any pain and can calmly articulate that they have seen your pain and thus it really is real, they are more likely to be believed. Also, girly life hack, get married or fake it. Misogynistic much? I know, but pretty much every woman I know started to get taken much more seriously in life when their chart no longer said Miss. And I am sad even thinking about that, but boy am I delighted to not be a teenage girl anymore and actually be listened to when I say, it's freaking broken! Can you do something? The looks are also available. So, Bella Hadid sharing her treatment was important for people with Lyme disease who may feel isolated because of it, but it also gave her followers information on the process and meant fashion and gossip magazines that wouldn't usually talk about these topics reported on what the effects of Lyme disease are and how it presents itself, and also how one can get it. And the more places where this can happen, the better, right? Muscle weakness, joint stiffness and extreme tiredness, as well as pain and rashes on the body. On top of removing the stigma, this could help people identify early symptoms and seek a diagnosis and treatment for something they may not even know has existed before. And that is particularly valuable for people suffering from conditions that are easily dismissed as tiredness, or that are often confused by those around them as laziness or moodiness. Because even when you know you are not feeling okay, sometimes it's helpful to have someone tell you they believe you are not making it up. Remember that study. Did you know you can get Lyme disease from ticks? Yeah, that's a new fear that I've managed to unlock there. I just really want people to appreciate that I had to look at several pictures of ticks to write this section, and that does not sit right with me. Body shaming and chronic illness. Circling back to Selena Gomez, celebrities discussing their diagnoses can also help address the way we often body shame people whose weight or appearance change because of their health issues. FYI, body shaming isn't okay, no matter why their appearance has changed. Selena opened up about having been diagnosed with lupus in 2015, a chronic illness that can cause joint and muscle pain, extreme tiredness, rashes, and others like headaches, weight loss, and even depression and anxiety. She also discussed having needed chemotherapy and also receiving a kidney transplant because of the disease. Much like in the case of Bella Hadid, this led several magazines and newspapers to discuss both the symptoms and the treatment of lupus, increasing awareness. Also, she donated the proceeds from her 2016 revival tour to lupus research, which I just think is really nice. Yeah, most people only know lupus as the thing that you don't get in house. Do people still know about house? I don't know. It not being lupus is all I know about house. House, to be fair. Tell me in the comments if House is still a relevant reference in 2024. So anyway, earlier last year, Selena showed up for the Golden Globes, looking frankly like a vision, but apparently not to everyone's taste. Many took to Twitter to complain about her face or her body being bigger, some even directly referencing her disease and asking if it was because of lupus. According to Google Trends, Selena Gomez weight gain, Selena Gomez skinny, and Selena Gomez health all increased in search at the same time. Although at the time she dismissed the concerns about her weight, eventually she recorded a TikTok explaining that the medication she takes makes her weight fluctuate, and that she would rather be healthy and take care of herself. What is wrong with people? Yeah. The conversation that Selena Gomez's response started was a very positive one, and several news outlets ran articles on fat shaming, commenting on people's bodies and the effect of medication. How, we should be nice, which is positive. But the reasons why she needed to talk publicly about the changes in her body were disappointing. First of all, no one should have to make a public statement explaining why they gained weight. I think that's just the baseline, isn't it? But because we, as a public, are used to consuming images of famous stars, many people feel entitled to public figures looking in particular ways, which means that when their appearance changes, people feel this is a personal slight. How could Selena Gomez do this to me? Oh, I really feel for you. This is particularly an issue when it comes to female celebrities, who are supposed to always look red carpet ready, which is a vicious cycle, because it also means that people do not take their chronic illnesses seriously, and then they have to look red carpet ready again. Because some people do not realise that you can in fact have a chronic illness and still look fancy. I wouldn't know about that. Ask your friends if they've ever been told by a medical professional or random acquaintance that they couldn't be suffering that much because they look great and they're wearing makeup. Go on, ask them. Having a chronic illness doesn't mean that you will always look like you can't leave your bed and you're not able to do anything at all. But being able to take care of presenting yourself in ways that make you happy doesn't mean you don't have a chronic illness. What does someone with a chronic illness look like? Many different things. We are all beautiful snowflakes. But Jessica, I hear you ask, is it okay to talk about celebrities who gain weight suddenly but do not have a chronic illness? Well, excuse me, are you going to go after every public figure whose weight has changed to make sure their body shape has changed for a legitimate reason? How are we hunting down their medical info? I sure hope not. That's a terrible waste of your time. This is not a must be this legitimate to ride bar that makes it okay to dismiss how someone looks. A change in body shape is not a moral failure, and you don't get to be mean to someone because of it. I'll get off my soapbox in a minute, it bothers me. Privilege. Yes, there's a title card called Privilege. For one thing, it will make a good GIF. Search my name on your GIF keyboard, see what comes up. Are there any negatives to celebrities discussing their chronic illnesses on public platforms? Oh, other than the fact that sometimes we bully them into having to talk about them, that is. Well, yes and no. It is true that these figures bring awareness about their conditions, but at the same time, the way their experience of the illness is portrayed can create an unachievable standard for people with chronic illness who do not have the resources or the privilege of a Selena Gomez or a Bella Hadid. Oh my goodness, what is that even like? What we see of these people's lives when they choose to share it, or even when people pry into their personal lives and speculate on the press, is only part of the story. These glamorous, perfect, polished looks are not how most chronically ill people get to present themselves most of the time. So it makes sense that they will appear like they are managing their symptoms or their illness in a competent way if they choose to portray it that way. Because again, we, for some reason, tend to think that people who can do a glamour shot are probably not suffering that much. This is not even how famous chronically ill people look every day. They just got dressed up for a party. Most people with chronic disease do not have access to hairdressers, stylists, and professional photographers. And, more importantly, most people with chronic disease do not have the access to medical treatment or circumstances to manage their condition in an optimal manner either. Bingo. Because of this reason, some people have expressed concern about the possibility of a celebrity misrepresenting their symptoms or treatment in a way that could be dangerous for people watching from the outside. I mean, you tell your boss you have a condition, your boss sees a celebrity with the same condition and says, well, they seem to be making movies all the time, why aren't you coming into work? I mean, unless you're also a movie star, doing comparable roles, apples and oranges. Or even more directly, of the dangers of someone sharing false information that may make someone's medical condition worse. Obviously, hi. You can find plenty of people online, both famous and not as well known, who like to claim there are miracle cures for different chronic conditions through exercise, diet, or even just positive thinking. Have you ever tried putting an onion in a sock? For instance, the American actress. Okay, actually, I'm not going to say her name. I don't want to spread her misinformation further. You can look her up if you want, but this is just an example. An unnamed American actress wrote and published a cooking book claiming to have cured her endometriosis through a healthy diet. No. In an article talking about her love for food, she said, "I didn't know until I was in college that you could buy green beans that went in a can. Now I have literally healed myself with food." You cannot do this. This is not how endometriosis works. I am sorry. Endometriosis is usually managed through painkillers, hormonal medicine, and surgery. I'm just full of PSAs today. That this may lead to someone out there who is suffering from endometriosis to read this article and either try to replicate the diet but seek no medical health advice, or if they do not have access to healthy food, to just feel like there's no way of dealing with their condition and get very depressed. This diet-based approach to health is not coming from nowhere. Even though endometriosis cannot be cured by eating green beans, lack of access to nutritious food is a serious issue in the development and management of chronic disease. 1 in 6 adults in the United States have a chronic illness, many of which are caused by preventable factors like diet, healthy lifestyles, etc., blah blah blah. And actually, chronic diseases account for 70% of all deaths in the United States. So it's not unimaginable someone would believe this. But these preventable factors are not always a choice for a lot of people. For one thing, many preventable factors were set down in place when you were a child and had no control. A healthy diet may be beneficial in preventing the development of chronic illnesses like diabetes, but low-income and minority communities often lack convenient places that offer affordable, healthier foods. According to data from 2019, over 2 million households in the US without vehicles lived more than 1 mile from the nearest food store. Access to medical insurance, nutritious food, and quality of medical care may also depend on further factors. So it is true that looking at a particular chronic illness through the way one individual deals with it online could be dangerous for the public, particularly for someone who may trust the celebrity as much as a medical professional, or who may just not have the access to healthcare and may be looking for some hope. It seems, though, like maybe the actual problem here is that there should be more information and resources for people with chronic illnesses. So, they're not relying on celebrities. It really seems like maybe the only source of hope for treatment is one person on the internet who once was on a TV show. Maybe the issue is much worse than someone trying to sell a cookbook. Even in cases where the celebrity only discusses their own treatment because it's part of their life, some people may feel like celebrities sharing their experiences are actually a misrepresentation of what life with chronic illness actually is. But that right there is the problem. There is no actually. These are just people who have a particular experience of chronic illness, which is as real as the experience of any other person. We shouldn't take any one person as the rule of how one lives with chronic illness, right? We're all individuals. Also, these people are just ridiculously rich. Of course, their lives don't look like our lives. You should definitely not try to cure your endometriosis through dieting, but it's a bit of a tall order to ask anyone to be a representative for the whole of the human experience, even if they have a Golden Globe. Some people complain that celebrities speaking about their illnesses online only show a narrow version of what being a chronically ill person is. But isn't that the case for everybody? Aren't they just choosing what they want to share about their lives? I mean, my job involves sharing about my chronic illness online, but I definitely don't share everything, and I don't share the worst parts. Not because I'm shy or embarrassed. I mean, Lord knows I've been naked enough in front of enough teams of doctors to have lost a lot of inhibitions, but generally because I'm just incapable of making content when I'm at my worst. How am I supposed to pick up my phone to record when I'm too weak to lift my hand? What exactly am I able to convey when I'm in too much pain to speak? Who is that serving? It's not me, and it's not you. It's not anyone else with a similar condition to me. Probably would be enjoyed by the dark side of the internet, but let's not go there. To me, it seems better to create content when I'm feeling able and have a clear mind so that I'm actually sharing information, like right now. I took no extra painkillers today. High five for me. Do. Maybe the goal should be to try to create a world where everyone gets the support they need to live in a fulfilled and happy manner, not try to claim someone's illness isn't real because they share experiences publicly that don't match other people's experiences, even if they're giving bad advice on Twitter. Just a thought. That's it. That's the video. Remember that celebrities are just people who do not have any more or any less authority on how to live a life than anyone else. When we complain that a celebrity talking about their diagnosis is trying to get attention or creating a false image of what their illness is, we forget that, yes, maybe they feel more comfortable being seen in one way or another, and they do have sometimes more control over how to manage their image or a bigger platform to discuss it publicly. Or they're part of an incredibly wealthy but out-of-touch institution who look at a media storm on Twitter and Reddit and go, the lady with cancer did it. Really? You couldn't have blamed that on some palace intern who's also the grandson of a duke and starting a cushy banking job next month anyway? But they are still one person who's experiencing their illness in one particular way, and no person needs to be the spokesperson for the whole group they belong to. Having access to the different ways in which people live with their different conditions helps us to have a more complete picture of how chronic illnesses can look. And it is positive that all of these glamorous, talented artists are talking openly about how that looks for them. But no way of having an illness is the way every illness should look, and no one, famous or not, has the obligation to share with you their pain and their struggles for the sake of your education. It's not the job of people with chronic illness to inform you. Their job is to be glamorous and talented. And also, my last PSA of the day, you do not get to determine if someone you have never met has a chronic illness or not, or why the shape of their body is changing. Newsflash. How nice one looks on the red carpet doesn't tell you anything about how ill or not someone is. These are just people. It's never okay to speculate what is wrong with a person or try to decide if someone else has the right to claim a diagnosis or not. But it's even more out of place when it comes to people we have and very likely will never meet. And if you do meet them, it's going to be really freaking awkward for you. How about maybe we just don't comment on people's weight? Because it's just stinking rude. And if you're one of the people who has the same diagnosis as a celebrity, who seems like they are doing super wonderful, fabulous, amazing, and you're thinking, oh my God, I could never get there. I'll never be like that. Why can't I do all those things? Please know that you are only ever seeing the highlight reel of their life. Much like social media, you only see the parts where they can make it out of bed. So please do not put yourself down. Do not compare yourself to anyone. You've got this. You're doing great. See you in the next video.